Hi, I'm Carling, and welcome to class today. We're going to focus on creating stability and mobility in some of the body's most crucial joints, the shoulders and the hips. We'll work through a progression building up to some really fun arm balances, and then take it down a notch for the second half of class, chilling out and unwinding. For this class, you'll need at least 2 blocks, and then maybe a blanket if you prefer. So we're going to start class standing today. So come up towards the top of your mat and come into Tadasana. And when you find your footing here, don't worry so much about whether or not the big toes touch or the feet are all the way together. Just find a comfortable stance, feet underneath the hips, shoulders stack on top of the hips, and then the head right on top of the shoulders. Good. Relax the arms down, close the eyes, and see if you can find a little bit of balance in your feet. So imagine you're going to lean a little bit forward until you almost feel your toes catch, like you're going to step forward. And then lean a little bit further back into the heels as if you were going to catch and step back. And once you've found those 2 extremes, see if you can find a nice middle ground right in between. Letting the fingertips reach down towards the earth, soften the shoulders down your back, and then reach all the way up through the crown of the head, get a little bit taller. And so as you start to find your bearings here, and just start to find that really steady stance where you feel like you're almost getting a little bit lighter with each breath. As you reach up through the crown of the head and root down through the soles of the feet, press all 4 corners of the feet into the mat, and then think about lifting the arches of the feet, so the inner arch and the outer arch of the foot draw all the way up through the ankles, the inside of the calves through the knees, interior and outer lines of the thighs, and then way up through the armpits and all the way up through the ears. And then taking those 2 lines of energy and drawing everything towards the midline, so you get stronger and stronger as you pull everything in towards the belly button, towards the heart. Right, and as you find that stability, that sort of balance of hugging in and pressing down, I want you to shift just a little bit of weight into the right foot. You can bring the hands to the hips or anywhere that feels natural, and just shift that weight into the right foot and pick up the left. That left foot just hovers, doesn't have to be big. The toes stay almost in line with one another. See if you can keep drawing the low belly up, drop the tailbone down just a touch, reach all the way up through the sternum, and then shift the weight over to the left. So press into the left foot. Right foot hovers. It's almost as if that right thigh bone sort of plugs way up into the hip socket. You feel it lift and just pick up. Balancing the weight on your left foot, spread the toes, press them down into your mat. Good, and then both feet find the earth. Reach the arms up to the sky. Urdhva Hastasana, as you reach the fingertips up, it's really tempting to reach all the way up so much that your shoulders come way up into your ears. And at the same time, if you've done a lot of yoga, it's also very tempting to soften the shoulders and draw them way down. What I'd like you to do is try to find a middle ground. So instead of reaching all the way up like you're pulling for a rope, and instead of softening all the way down like your shoulders are dripping down, can you just find a neutral middle ground? Again, trying to find that balance of effort and ease, stability and mobility, and allow the scapula, the shoulder blades, to actually rotate upward like they're supposed to. So let the shoulders lift just a little bit. Almost imagine you're holding a block between your hands. Press the forearms towards one another. Still hugging towards the midline. So checking in with your Tadasana. Can you make this a really active pose? And I know it's easy to make it feel like you're just standing here, but can you turn everything on? Draw the front ribs down, draw the belly button in from the sideways, so north, south, east, west, everything pulls in. Reach through the fingertips, and then keep moving the forearms back just a little bit. Let the shoulders come along for the ride. Take 2 more breaths. Good, and then keep all this strength, this big strong line all the way through the body that you've got, and again, shift some weight onto the right foot. So that left foot hovers just an inch, toes stay about in line. Good, keep that strength here, turn on the glute on the right leg. So use all the strength of the hamstring, the back body, and you're just gonna gently start to hinge forward, come into a little baby version of Warrior 3. Right, so as you hinge forward, if you get far enough, and this feels like enough, stay here. If you're ready to come down a little bit further, bring the hands to the right thigh. So interlace the fingers on the right thigh, and I want you to physically push that right thigh bone back and roll the outer left hip down as you lift the left leg from the glute. So use the strength of your butt here. Reach the crown of the head forward, take another breath in. Another breath out. Good, and then unwind all the way back upright. Utthita Hasta in Tadasana, find that length, and then shift over to the second side. So onto the left foot. Right foot hovers, and then use the strength of your belly as you hinge at the hips. Strength of the right butt this time, lifting that right leg. And start to reach all the way forward. Try to keep everything hugging and in control, just like you did in your Tadasana. Either halfway arms stay reaching, or interlace the fingers and bring them to your left thigh. And maybe a little baby bend in your left leg as you press the thigh bone back. So descend that femur towards the hamstring, reach the crown of the head forward, and pull those front ribs in if they're popping out. So squaring those hips down towards the mat, hugging everything into the midline, right? Stabilize by drawing in. One more full breath. Good, reach the arms back up and unwind all the way back up. Hands to heart center, take a big exhale. Good, sweep the arms up, inhale. And then exhale, hands to heart center. Last one here, shift onto the right foot. Good, so warrior three is a really tough pose. Take your time. If there's a few wobbles along the way, don't worry about it. Right, and as you teeter forward, this time keep the hands at heart center and see if you can reach out through the crown of the head, reach back through the left heel. If you want more stability, hands come back to the right thigh. If you've got the hands at heart center, see if you can find that same feeling of drawing that right thigh bone back, that same descending of the femur, even without the physical adjustment. 2 more breaths. Good, slowly make your way back upright and over to the second side. So plant that left foot. Ground all 4 corners of the foot, lift through the inner and outer arch, fire up that leg, and then start to hinge forward, hands at heart center. Use the strength of the back body. Hamstring and glute, lift that right leg as you reach the crown of the head forward, fold forward. Come back into that feeling of drawing the left thigh back. Roll the outer right hip down, square those hips, draw everything into the center. 2 breaths. Finding your balance, steady gaze, steady drishti. Good, and then all the way back upright. Plant the palms, sweep the arms up, inhale. And then on the exhale, bend the knees, soften down as you fold all the way forward. Uttanasana. Good, shimmy out the legs a little bit, give them a break. And then inhale, halfway lift. Knees can stay bent this whole time. Exhale, fold. Good. With an inhale, sweep up to the sky. Use the strength of your legs as you reach. And exhale, hands to heart center. Couple rounds of half Surya A, so just warming things up. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold forward. Good. Inhale, halfway lift. Lengthen through your spine. Lift the belly away from the thighs. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, soften. Inhale, arms sweep up all the way to standing. And exhale, hands to heart center. Last one. Reach through the fingertips. Exhale, hinge down, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release. Good, sweep the arms up. Find that same Tadasana you worked on. Draw the belly up, front ribs down. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good, reach the fingertips up. And this time you're gonna fold all the way forward and step back to downward facing dog. Right, so step both feet back. Find your down dog. And widen out the feet just a little bit more than normal today. So maybe the width of your mat, maybe not quite as wide. Just sort of feel it out. You can experiment. And then press the mat away. See if you can feel the shoulders actually move onto the back a little bit more. Press through the hands, anchor down through the inner hand. So press down with that big muscle between the index knuckle and the thumb. And then reach the thigh bones back. Maybe a little gentle bend in the knees. The heels don't have to find the earth today or ever. Good, pedal at the feet a few times. Bring some motion, some blood flow into there. And then shift your gaze forward and actually look at your hands. So it's gonna pull you a little bit out of the down dog, it's totally fine. And I want you to look at your elbows and start to bend the arms and wrap those elbows back. So if you're looking at them and they're bending and they're going out to the side, I want you to hug the triceps in. Again, pull everything into the midline. You might see the biceps start to turn on, the forearms start to shake a little bit. Means it's working. And then as you wrap those guys in, slowly lower down, dolphin. Relax the head and the neck. Bend the knees if you need to. You can walk it shorter or longer. And then same thing, go the opposite direction. Look at your hands, look at your arms, see what they're doing. See if you can lift both forearms off the mat at the same time. Downward facing dog. Couple more rounds. Hug the forearms in, wrap the triceps back, lower down dolphin. Good, lift up, down dog. And if lowering both forearms at the same time is not happening today or tomorrow, totally cool, you can go one at a time, right? Slowly making your way down, taking care. Lift those forearms back up, down dog, 2 more rounds. And then lower them down. Wrap the triceps. Softly set the forearms down. Good, lift back up, down dog. Last one, forearms to the earth. Walk the feet in just a little bit, shorten your dolphin. Relax the head and the neck. Good. Set your knees down to the earth, sit back on the heels, Virasana. Settle down into Virasana, and then reach the arms all the way up to the sky, interlace the fingers, and press the palms up. So flip the palms up towards the ceiling, reach through the heel of the hand, lengthen all the way up. So it's if you're gonna press your palms all the way up towards the ceiling, feel the side waist get a little bit longer and taller, and then a little bit of a back bend as you scoop the shoulder blades underneath you, lift with an inhale. And then on the exhale, press the palms forward around the upper back. Feel the shoulder blades protract and pull away from one another. Good. With your breath, inhale, lengthen, lifting up. Exhale, push it away. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, push. Good. Release the hands, downward facing dog. Plant the palms. Wiggle the feet back, press through the heels. Use the strength of the legs to drag some of that weight out of your arms. So reach back, back, back. And then right leg lifts to the sky. Inhale, reach to the right side, nice and long. Exhale, pull the right knee into the chest, round all the way forward, step the right foot between your hands. Drop the left knee, pull the heart forward. So fingertips can stay on the earth for the first couple breaths. Lengthen all the way through the sternum so the collarbones get really broad as you pull forward. And then straighten the right leg, Ardha Hanuman half splits. And as you settle back into the half splits, you might stay totally upright. If you're a little further away from the ground, you might grab your blocks and bring the ground up to you. Right? And imagine you're lengthening the heart forward. So again, pulling the toes towards your chest and your chest towards your toes, get longer. Resist the urge to round down and think about length instead. Good. And then slowly start to move back into that lunge. Untuck the back toe, and you're going to climb your hands up onto your right thigh. So come into an upright lunge, press the palms in, and lift the low belly away from the right thigh. Right, so it's imagining that you're actually creating space between the right thigh, that hip crease, and the belly button. Get a little bit longer here. Lift, lift, lift. Good, and as you start to wake up the front of the left hip, start to say hello to that psoas, see if you can lean into it a little bit on the inhale, and then press back and away on the exhale. Good, drop in, inhale. Exhale, pull away and strengthen. Good, keep all the stability you've cultivated in the hips, so feel that hugging towards the midline. Draw the right thigh bone back, back, back. Spin the left hip forward, and then interlace the hands behind your back. So once you've got that clasp, try to press the heel of the palm together. Draw the knuckles down towards the earth. Good, and as you draw those knuckles down, it might take you into a bit of a back bend. Lift up through the heart, maybe straightening the arms. Resist the urge to go further than straight, especially if you tend to hyperextend in the elbows. Good. Pull the knuckles away from your left thigh. Take one more breath into the very top of the chest, right underneath the collarbones, the sternum. Good. And then release, plant the palms, tuck the back toe, step right back, high plank. Good. Find your high plank. I think this is the first high plank we've done today, so take a moment to find some balance here. Press into the palms, press into the feet. Lift through the belly and pull the collarbones forward just a touch. Take a big inhale. Lean forward on the toes. Exhale, lower all the way, chest to the ground. On the inhale, sweep the chest up. Little baby cobra, press the toes into the earth. Use the strength of the legs, the glutes that we've already turned on. Good release, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Curl the left knee into the chest, step it all the way forward, low lunge, second side. Drop the right knee, come onto the fingertips, pull the chest through, lengthen out. So creating a nice long line all the way from the crown of the head to the right heel. Good. And then straighten that left leg, half splits. Again, grab your blocks if you use them on side one. Flex the left foot. See if you can pull the pinky side of the foot back towards your face, so you're reaching through all four corners. And then lengthen the crown of the head forward. Focus on squaring those hips. Good. With your next breath, come back into your lunge. Walk the hands up to the thigh and reach up. So finding some posture here, it's really easy to just sort of like hang out in low lunges and sort of rely on our joints to support us. What I want you to do is imagine that the thighs are scissoring towards one another, like you're going to isometrically pull your left heel back, back, back until you feel your hamstring and your glute turn on. And as you do that, you're trying to pull your right hip and your right knee forward so they're meeting in the middle. So that's the action we want in the low belly, in the thighs, and that little bit of pelvic lift to get that uprightness. Good. Press the low belly away from the left thigh. Lengthen all the way up, and then interlace the hands second side. Opposite thumb goes on top, probably the awkward one. And then reach the knuckles down, stretch the shoulders. Chest is going to lift. You can tuck or untuck the toe, whatever makes you feel more stable here, that's what it's about. Keep working on that scissoring of the legs, right? You'll be tempted to sort of turn open to one side. Pull that left heel back and underneath you. Lift the chest, lift the heart. Take one more breath. Good. On the exhale, with control, plant the palms, step back, high plank. Good. This time, lower halfway, chaturanga. Press back up, high plank. It's an actual push-up. I know, that's crazy. Pull the chest through from there, up dog or cobra, whichever back bend you like here. And then all the way back, down dog. So we're going to move through that flow one more time a little bit faster and start to add on. Inhale, reach the right leg up to the sky. Step the right foot between your hands. Good. Low lunge, lengthen the chest. Exhale, pull the right thigh back, Ardha Hanuman, half splits. Good. This time, I'm going to keep this half splits position, but walk my hands over to the right. So it's almost as if you're twisting over that extended leg. It's okay if the foot wants to go with you a little bit. Don't worry so much about that. What we're looking for is a nice big stretch in the IT band. So pull the chest over to the right. Keep lengthening through the collarbone. Same action here. You should feel a little bit more sensation through the right hip, the outer right thigh. Good. Now come back to center into that lunge. Climb to the upright lunge. Hands on the thighs. Lengthen and lift. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. Interlace the hands behind your back. Draw the knuckles down, almost as if you're going to trace down that back hamstring. Lift the heart. Big breath in. Good. With your exhale, control the belly as you hinge forward. This time, adding on, tuck the back toes. Lift that back knee. So strong runner's lunge here. Press through the back heel. Draw the right thigh bone back. Think about squaring the hips as you lengthen out through the crown of the head. Right? It's as if you're going to take off for a race, so you want lots of strength in the legs. Lots of stability here. Press that right heel down. Good. You might be on the fingertips, you might be on blocks. If you've got really long arms, like I do, you might be on your palms. Think about creating space, almost as if you were going to lift your low belly off that right thigh again. It may or may not go anywhere, right? But think about it. And then keep the left hand planted, reach the right arm overhead. And then reach the left arm overhead. So extend all the way through that lunge. Press through the right foot. Reach through the big toe and the pinky toe, both sides of that right leg. Good. Keep reaching through the fingertips. Imagine it's the same thing as the beginning of class when you had the arms overhead in Tadasana. Imagine you've got a block between the hands. Squeeze the forearms. Let the shoulders lift just a little bit. Let the shoulders do what the shoulders do. Take a breath in. And then exhale, palms to the mat. Good. Step back, high plank. Lower halfway, chaturanga. Press back up all the way, high plank, full push-up. And then pull the heart through, upward facing dog or low cobra, all the way back, downward facing dog. Good. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. With an inhale, left leg lifts, second side. Step the left foot between the hands, drop your right knee. Low lunge, pull the chest through. On the exhale, half splits. Good. Flex that left foot. Pull both sides of the foot back towards your face. And then again on this side, we're going to twist. So walk your hands over to the left, over your left thigh, and then pull your heart towards the left side of your room and keep reaching that foot towards the front of your mat. So you're moving in two different directions. Might feel a little bit squishy, a little bit contracted here. See if you can breathe into the outside line of your left thigh. So into that IT band, everyone's favorite place. Good, start to walk your way back to center. Bend into the left knee, hands to the left thigh. Lift up and out of your lunge. Scissor those legs together, find that hugging, find the midline, and then interlace the hands, opposite thumb on top, draw the knuckles down, lift the heart, stretch the shoulders. Good, release with control, fingertips to the earth, tuck the back toes, and lift your right knee. Strong runner's lunge here. So as you find this lunge, again, it's tempting to just sort of hang out. Can you draw the low belly up and in? Can you push that right thigh bone up towards the ceiling? And then reach through the pinky and the big toe. Waking up that back leg so it's super active. Right? If someone came and wanted to sit on your back thigh, you could hold them up. That's how awake it is. And then reach the crown of the head forward, lengthen out. Good, keep the right fingertips on the earth, reach the left hand overhead. Extend all the way through the left side of the body. Draw that left thigh bone back. And then right hand reaches to meet. Extend through that lunge. Fingertips forward. Draw the low belly up and away. See if you can pull the front ribs down, reach a little bit longer. Breathe here 2 breaths. Inhaling and exhaling. Good, inhaling and exhale. Last breath in. 2.5, I lied. And then both palms to the earth, step back, high plank. Good, take an inhale and high plank. Reach the crown of the head forward, wrap the triceps back, lower down, chaturanga. Press back up, high plank. All the way through up dog or cobra. And all the way back, downward facing dog. Good, same work again, adding on one more time. Inhale, reach the right leg up. Step the right foot between your hands. Inhale, pull the chest through. Exhale, half splits. Good, walk the hands over to the right. IT band. Take a full breath here. Good. All the way back to center. Come into that upright lunge. Press the palms onto the thigh, lift and lengthen out. And then keep all that length you've cultivated. Interlace the hands, find that bind. You've been here before, see if you can find that stability. Drag the knuckles down. Good, and then plant the palms, tuck the back toes, lift the left knee, lengthen out, find that strength. Reach both hands overhead, extend through the lunge. Good, and then think about those warrior ones we did at the beginning of class. That's where we're going, you know where you've been. So take a big confident step into that right foot. Slowly lift the left leg off the earth, Virabhadrasana 3. Now, if arms overhead is too much weight, it feels too tender on the low back, you can always bring the hands to heart center, or you can come back to that first variation we did, hands on the right thigh. If you've got the hands on the thigh, remember, press the thigh bone back, lift through the left leg, and if that left hip wants to splay open, roll from the outer left hip down, 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 as if you were turning 2 headlights right towards the earth. Right, so square things off. Find your stability here. Find that plumb line, that bit of center as you balance. You know it's a longer hold. 2 more breaths. Good. And then slowly start to teeter right back where you came from. Left foot finds the earth. Plant the palms. Right back, downward facing dog this time. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. Inhale, left leg lifts, second side. Curl the left knee in, step it forward, low lunge. Drop the right knee, pull the heart through, take a big breath into the chest. And then exhale, straighten the leg, half splits. Good, next breath over to the left side. Say hello to that IT band for just a moment. And then back through center, right? You know where we're going, so move with a little bit of fluidity and confidence. Bring the hands up to the left thigh, lengthen and lift out, scissor the inner hips together. Interlace the hands, find that back bend as you draw the knuckles down, down, down. Lift through the heart, maybe getting a little bit further. Good, then release with control, use the belly. As you bring the hands back down to the earth, tuck the right toes, lift that right knee, strong runner's lunge. Good, both hands lift overhead, extend all the way through the fingertips. So clean line of energy all the way through the right middle finger to the right heel. And then big burst of energy as you step into that left foot. So step into the left heel, drag the right toes, and then use the strength of the right glute to lift the right leg. Virabhadrasana 3. And as you find your balance here, right, try not to make it more complicated than it is. So think about that Tadasana. Lift through the arches of the feet. Draw some strength up through the inner thigh, right, the inseam of the thigh. Draw that work all the way up into the belly, the pelvic floor. Reach the crown of the head forward. Kick through the right leg. Good. Squeeze everything into the midline. And take 2 more full breaths here. Good. Slowly start to teeter back. Right toes touch down, plant the palms, downward facing dog. Good. Start to walk the hands back to the feet. So all the way back to the back of the mat. And then take a nice big bend in your knees. Maybe even wiggle the feet out a little bit further than they usually are. So give yourself some space. And then interlace the hands. You can grab opposite elbows and take a ragdoll. So allow the head and the neck to drop. Put enough bend in the knees that you can actually rest your rib cage, your belly on the thighs. I want you to resist the urge to straighten your legs here. Right? It's still yoga if your knees are bent. So let go of the aesthetic and see if you can instead think about the length in your low back, no matter how bent your knees are. A couple breaths. Yeah, shake out the head, yes and no. You can pedal the feet a little side to side, shimmy the hips. And then with your next breath or two, walk back out, downward facing dog. Good. Inhale, reach your right leg up to the sky. Bend your knee and open your hip. Doesn't have to be huge, but just take a few circles here. Get a little space into the hip joint. Maybe reach that knee up to the sky. Resist the urge to dump into the left side. Instead, try to keep pulling the left hip back as you reach and open. Good, and then right knee steps all the way forward. Come into that low lunge and then roll the left heel down to the earth. So as you ground that left back heel, sit into the right knee, plant the right hand, side angle. Right, so different pose. See if you can press the left heel down, lift through the belly just a little bit, and turn the left arm up to the sky. Good. If there's space in your body, you're going to spin that thumb back, internally rotate the right arm, internally rotate the left arm, spin it behind you, and find a bind. So the bottom arm comes underneath. You're going to bind through the hands and resist the urge to come out of that knee, work into the hip, ground the right heel, that same isometric pull as you draw back, 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 and underneath you, and then maybe turn the chest up to the sky. Good. If there's space in the body, you might consider straightening the right leg, bound triangle. And as you turn the gaze up, keep pressing the soles of the feet down. Keep lifting the low belly away from the thigh as best you can. Take 2 more breaths. Bound triangle, strong feet. Roll the shoulders down and back. Good. And then slowly shift the gaze back to the earth. Unwind, plant the palms, step back, downward facing dog. Good, right into it, second side. Lift the left leg up. Bend the knee and open the hip. So take a few circles. Open through the left thigh. Draw the right hip crease back, back, back. Draw the right thigh bone back. Square off the hips. Left knee into the chest, step it forward. Good, this time from that lunge, you're going to roll the right heel down. So ground through the right heel. Press the outer edge of the right foot into the earth. Lift the inner arch. Left hand comes to the inner left foot, side angle, side 2. So if left hand coming to the earth is way far off, you can always bring your left elbow to the left thigh. You might use a block, any other props that make sense. Coming in for the bind, spin the top thumb back and around. And then bottom arm comes underneath. So both arms are internally rotating to find the bind. Good. Strong belly as you lift through the pubic bones, draw the tailbone down towards your right heel, and then turn the chest up to the sky. And then maybe starting to straighten that left leg, revolve triangle. Good, and as you bind that triangle, keep pulling the arms and the hands down towards the sole of the right foot. That left leg may not go completely straight, totally fine, don't push it. Right, be okay with how this feels, don't worry so much about how it looks. Last breath. Good, and then slowly unwind, use control, plant the palms, step back, down dog. Yeah, and then walk the feet up about halfway. Wiggle the feet out a little bit wider than usual. Walk the hands back and sit the hips low. Come into a squat. So as you set up for this squat, if a squat is really difficult for you and you need to turn the feet out a little bit further, so be it, no big deal. If you need a little bit of padding underneath the heels, if the heels aren't quite going to the ground, again, no big deal. You can roll up the back of your mat, grab a prop, whatever you need so that this is comfortable. All of our bodies are designed really differently, so try not to get caught up on whether or not your squat is all the way to the ground or if you need props or you don't. Right? Just adjust for your body. It's going to do you the best good. Take a couple breaths in the squat. Bring the hands to heart center. Use the triceps to actually push the thigh bones away from one another and lengthen up through the crown of the head. Good. And then plant the palms. Lift the hips just a little bit. Big toes come to touch. Bakasana crow pose. So press into the palms, knees to the backs of the triceps. Look forward as you lean forward. Use the fingers like toes as you grip the mat, and then maybe both sets of toes. Maybe one toe, 2 toes, or 10 toes start to lift as you find your way into Bakasana. Keep reaching the crown of the head forward. Pull the heels towards the butt. Breathe here. Find that rounding of the upper back. Protract the shoulder blades. Draw them away from one another. Take 2 full breaths. And it's okay if it teeters a little back and forth, if your toes are tapping and lifting and tapping and lifting, stick with it. And then slowly flex the feet. See if you can set them down as quietly, gently as possible, right where they came from. Come back into a squat. Shift the hands to heart center, lift up. If you need a little bit more support in your squat here, if things are getting a little tired, you could sit on a block, right? And then really find yourself lifting up and pressing the thigh bones away from one another. So we're looking for space in our low back, in our sacrum, and our hips here, right? And if that space comes at the expense of a lot of tension, right? If you're struggling to just be here because you think that's what it's supposed to be, we're not actually going to create much space, right? We need a little bit of release to create that. 2 breaths. Good. And then go ahead, turn the toes towards the top of the mat, straighten the legs, fold forward. Right, so straightening the legs to the best of your ability. Maybe the hands walk out a little bit further, sort of halfway between a halfway lift and a down dog. Good. And then walk the fingertips back, hands to hip, and roll all the way up to stand. Good. From here, you're going to turn to the side, so turn to the left, and come into a nice wide stance. You're going to turn the toes out. We're going to come into goddess. Goddess, horse, there's a lot of names for this one. Whichever one you like, whatever embodies that sort of feeling, that's the one you should go with. So bend into the knees and make sure that the knees and the ankles, the toes are facing the same direction, right? We just don't want crazy wonky stuff going on. Sit low into the hips, bring the hands to heart center. Right, so as you sit low into the hips, there's this feeling of moving out through the inner thighs, right? Inner thighs can use to move out. And at the same time, see if you can hug in through the outer hips, right? So opening and drawing together, creating a little bit of mobility and stability and strength at the same time. Reach the arms up to the sky. Reach up, up, up. You'll notice a little back bend wants to happen here. Draw the front ribs down. Sit the hips a little lower. Draw the tailbone down towards the earth directly underneath you. Take a full breath in. Take a big breath out. Good, another one like that. Reach the arms up, inhale. And on the exhale this time, pull the arms in, exhale. Good, just like that. Inhale and exhale. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Stick with that depth. You're right there. 1 more inhale. Exhale. Good. And then straighten those legs. Turn the toes in. Lift through the heart. And then exhale. Hinge at the hips. So press the hips back as you fold forward. Knees can stay bent. Hands find the earth. Wide-legged forward fold. Find the distance that works for you. You might wiggle the feet a little bit wider, a little bit closer. Walk the hands back underneath you. Draw the crown of the head towards the earth. See if you can create as much length through the low back as possible. You can always use blocks to bring the earth up to you. And take 2 more breaths here. Press through the outer edges of the feet. Yeah, and then hands come back underneath the shoulders. And you're just going to bend into that right knee and turn the toes back towards the top of the mat. Step right back into your squat. Drop the hips down. Good. From here, we are going to work our way into Firefly, so into Titivasana, which can be either a really big pose or not such a big pose. So it's up to you how far you want to take this. You might stick with crow if you're still working on that. If you feel like the hamstrings are warm and ready, then this is a really fun place to go. So you're going to straighten the legs and a much wider stance than you usually would for a forward fold, because we need to finagle the shoulders sort of underneath the legs. I like to think of it as putting on a backpack, right? So you got to put the legs on like the straps of a backpack. So as we forward fold here, we're going to bend the knees, and similar to that bind that we did in the side plank, we're working the shoulder underneath the right thigh. So one shoulder underneath here, I'm going to wiggle that one back, and it may take a few tries. So as you work your way back and back and back, right, when you feel like you've got to a place where there's a little bit of hook between your legs and your shoulders, we're going to plant the palms behind us, hug the thighs in. So there's work between the thighs and the shoulders. There's a relationship there. Lean back, let the toes fly. Right? Maybe you hook the toes, Ujjayi, and hang out here, shoulder pressing pose. Press into the palms, lift through the chest, let the butt drop a little bit. Good. Keep squeezing the thighs. Stay here. This might be plenty. It is plenty. Or straighten the legs, hug in, and as you straighten those legs, lift the belly, hug the thighs in, that same sort of drawing together. Reach through the chest, look forward. Straighten the legs. When you've had enough, bend the knees, and you're going to come right back to your squat. Right where you started. Hands to heart center. Close the eyes. You can interlace the hands, roll out the wrists a little bit. Right? It's a big movement on the wrist, big arm balance. Good. And then hands to the earth. Drop the shins down. Sit back, Virasana. Good. And then press the hands into the thighs. And I want you to literally push that meat of the thighs, really attractive term, the meat of the thighs, press it away. See if you can create some length here. Right, all those lunges and those arm balances, they're really big, deep forward folds. We don't always think of arm balances that way, but they are. They're huge hip openers and huge forward folds. So create some space here. Right, energetically move that forward. Good. And then modified camel. So not a big, huge back bend here. Just walk the fingertips back behind you. Press the tops of the feet into the earth, and just lift the hips a little bit. You can relax the head and the neck back if it feels okay. Lifting the hips just a little bit. Draw the shoulders together. Lift up through the heart and the sternum. Good. And then slowly drop the hips back down. Okay, from here, starting to take things down a notch in terms of the sheer strength, right, and the vinyasa portion, but not necessarily in terms of the actual difficulty. So this posture we're going to go into is called toes pose. It's a very creative name. And you're going to flick all 10 toes underneath you. So as you pull those guys underneath you, it's really easy for the pinky toe to get left out. So flick that guy under as well, and then sit back on your heels. And it looks deceivingly simple. If you've practiced me before, you've definitely done this before. It's one of my favorites. And what we're doing is opening up the back chain of that leg. So working through some of the fascia and that connective tissue in the soles of the foot. So see if you can breathe into the sole of the foot, breathe into the arch. And the same work that you did when you were lifting your feet through Tadasana, that same lift of the arch, that pressing down of the four corners, that's sort of the same feeling you want here. So find that engagement through the sole of the foot. If you're crying, and you're like, stop talking, let's just get through this, right? See if you can close your eyes and instead think about visualizing that space, right? It helps me to actually send the breath, to think about the inhales expanding through the arch of the foot, And the exhales moving into that new space. Right? If this pose is simply too much, if you do a lot of running, wearing high heels, things like that, you can always take a blanket or a bolster or anything else and put it between the heels and the butt so that you're softening that pressure a little bit. Totally fine. Right? There's no gold stars in yoga. You don't get a trophy for sitting with the pain. So if it's too much, modify as you need. And just breathe. You're almost there. Soften the shoulders down the back. Reach up through the crown of the head. Find your Tadasana here. And then slowly start to crawl the fingertips forward. Untuck the toes gently, slowly. Give them a little baby tap on the earth, so sort of bring that blood flow back into the legs. And then spread the toes out again, and you're going to sit back on the heels, Vajrasana. So similar to Hero's Pose, but I want you actually on the heels here, so you're sitting on the feet. Toes are untucked this time. Might feel kind of nice on the shins, the top of the feet after that hard toes pose. And this time, walk the hands back behind you, similar to what we did for Modified Camel, but instead of lifting the hips and turning it into that back bend, all I want you to do is lean some weight into your hands and try to pick up the knees. Right, so they may not go super high. It may just be a little baby hover. It depends a lot on the flexibility of the ankle. If you've got scar tissue in there, things like that going on, or if that flexibility is a hindrance, right, you may not get very far. Totally fine. We're focusing on the sensation, right, not the aesthetic. Lean back, press the toenails down, breathe into the shins, to the tops of the feet, into the ankles. And try to resist the urge to let the knees splay out. Try to hug the inner thighs together. Focus on the top of the foot. 3 more breaths. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And 1 more. Big breath in. And full breath out. And then slowly come out of that one. Good. This time, similar counter pose to undo the work. Tuck the toes a few times, untuck. You might roll out through the ankles. Just find a little bit of movement. Good. Cross the ankles underneath you and come to a seat. So go ahead and bring your feet into Baddha Konasana. So come into bound angle pose, press the soles of the feet together. And don't worry so much about whether the heels are close to the groins here. I just want you to sit up nice and tall. You can hold the feet together, lengthen up through the crown of the head, and just hold this place right here. Right? Not folding, we're not trying to go chest to deck or anything crazy. Just lengthen it out and find some posture. Right? We've already done a fair amount of external rotation in the thighs, so they're fairly open here. Right? We're just trying to find a little bit of symmetry. Good. And then you're going to keep this shape with the right leg, and you're going to take the left leg back behind you. So if the right leg stays as it is, it comes across a little closer to a pigeon pose. Left leg, I'm going to grab from the shin and swing that guy back behind and come into a deer pose. So deer is the yin name for this pose, and it's sort of a softer version of pigeon. So what we're looking for here is this external rotation in the front leg and this internal rotation in the back leg. So as we spin in, we're countering a lot of the work that we've done in the class. And you can stay just upright right here. This might be plenty. We're going to be here a little bit longer than some of the other poses. If you want a little softer version and you kind of want to chill, you're done, then you can use any props you might have handy, a block, blanket, bolster. Realistically, anything soft will do the trick. And you may start to fold forward and come down a little bit further. So envision that pressing down of the front thigh and that pulling back of the left thigh. Lengthen out the spine in between. Good. Starting to drop into the stretch just a little bit. And you sort of get to these softer, albeit still intense in some ways, postures, and see if you can cultivate a little bit of that resilience. right? After working really hard, after a really long standing series and some tough arm balances, see if you can find a little bit of pride, maybe even ego, blasphemy I know in yoga, right? And feel good about that and give yourself permission to release here. Right? Give yourself permission to go the opposite direction, to embrace the more yin side of things. And allow your body to do the work in the opposite direction. Working to create a balance of stability and mobility. If our bodies are just flexible, or if we're only focused on creating more space and cranking open and open and open, we end up in a dangerous place of injury, right? And if we go the other direction and we end up with strength and strength and strength, but we don't have the mobility to balance it out, again, we end up in that same end of the spectrum. So trying to find a bit of each, right? Because the flexibility is only so good as the strength to control it. And the strength is only so good as the mobility and the range of motion that it has. Take about 5 more breaths here. And dragging your inhales all the way down into the right hip, into the glute that worked so hard today. Last 2 breaths. And then slowly start to walk yourself back upright if you are down. And you're going to shift your way to the second side. So you can lean back and you can use your hand to sort of help that back leg up, bring it forward, and shift onto the second side. So this time the left shin is going to come forward and the right shin is going to sweep back behind. So you've got these little bit of stag legs going on. Find the balance as you come and sit nice and tall. Good. And then your choice. Either stay here, stay upright, or grab your bolster, your blanket, or just fold forward. Good. Allowing yourself to sort of explore the differences between the two sides, because oftentimes we have very different ranges of motion, strength on the right and the left based on a myriad of factors. But whatever it is that has led your body to be the way that it is right now, in this moment, is totally fine. There is no good side, bad side, right? It's just sides. It's just your body. So breathe into what you have, to what's going on. And give yourself that same permission to release and to soften. Feeling that left hip pull back and underneath. Right outer thigh spins forward and down. Countering that big work of the firefly, the arm balance. And taking about 5 or 6 more breaths. Slow and full, no rush. Inhale and exhale. Creating space on the inhale, moving into that new space on every exhale. The last 2 breaths. And then slowly start to work your way back upright. You're going to shift your props out of the way. Bring that right leg up to meet. And then go ahead and make sure that your blocks are nearby. And you're going to roll onto your back. So gently lower yourself all the way down. And as you find your way onto the earth, you're going to set up for a supported bridge pose. So my recommendation is that you take 2 blocks underneath your hips and take them the low way, but then stack them on top of one another. This tends to be more stable than just one on the really high way, right? But you can always use whatever you have on hand. You could use a bunch of books, whatever you've got at home usually works pretty well. So in this supported bridge, you're welcome to stay here, right? You're breathing through the front line of the body, dropping the tailbone towards the heels just a little bit, and trying to create space along the hip flexors and the psoas and all these really big, hard-working muscles. And then if you want a little bit more, we're going to take a Supta Virasana variation of this one. So you're going to reach for your left foot, and all you're going to do is flick the left toes under and keep that left knee pointing forward. So the left shin doesn't go all the way to the ground, right? This is a shorter version, a little bit more gentle version, I think. And as you pull those left toes under, keep reaching that left knee forward, 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 so that leg is active. So reach it forward. Imagine you're going to draw it and tap the front of your room, right, all the way to the top of the mat. The right leg stays as is. We're just going to do one at a time. Right, no need to go crazy. Take your time here. Breathe into the front of the left thigh. And as more space starts to open up, you might hold that foot a little further, right? But generally this sensation is pretty intense, so don't feel like you have to keep pushing and pushing. And if you start to feel any tension in the low back, too much compression in the SI joints, right, you can lower down a notch or start to unravel a little bit and just come back to supported bridge. Lots of options. Good. Keep the shoulders nice and soft. Let them just sort of release to the ground. Take the work out of the arms. You've already done plenty there. Good. Keep coming to that activity in the left leg. Left knee reaches forward. Right, so it's a passive stretch, kind of. Upper body releases, lower body stays active. Reach, reach, reach. Press the top of the foot down. Take 2 more breaths on the left side. Last breath in. And last breath out. Good. And then you can cup the front of that left foot and just give it a little boost to unwind. Slowly flex the foot. And then second side. So you're going to use the right hand to scoop the right toes underneath you. Right, you're still in the supported bridge, so make sure that the meat of the pelvis and the sacrum is balanced on the blocks so you're not teetering all over the place. And as you scoop those toes underneath you, reach through the top of the right thigh. Lengthen it out. Right, imagine that right femur bone, the thigh bone, dropping down towards the earth, descending down towards the hamstring, so you can create room for the stretch on the top there. Right, the psoas, that big sort of steel rod-like muscle that runs all the way through. Right, we want to sort of think about moving things down and away and give it room to stretch. Right, envision things sort of finding some clearance. Use the inhales to lengthen, press that right knee forward, forward, forward. And then the exhale, press down with the shin, the top of the foot. Keep the right leg active. Couple more breaths. And keep the breath slow and steady. Right, as we unwind from the work, as you slow down the breath, in turn the heart rate will start to slow, start to shift the nervous system. Good. Last 2 breaths here. And then use the right hand to gently pick up the right foot. Place it flat on the floor. Spend a moment here just in balance and symmetry. No need to really do anything, but just let things sort of, let them settle. And then start slow, press the feet down, lift the hips, and just remove one block and set it aside. Coming down to a lower height. You might straighten out the legs and see how that feels. Right? You get that little stronger sensation of those thigh bones dropping down, down, down. Breathe into the low belly. Create some space around the pubic bones. Opening up the whole front body. And then walk the feet back in. Remove your second block. And drop the hips to the earth. Reach the legs out long. Sweep the arms overhead. Take one last full body expansion, right where we started. So press through the soles of the feet. Draw the pinky toes back. Reach through the arms. Bring the thumbs to the earth overhead. Press the shoulders down. Press the low belly down. Reach through the feet. Reach through the crown of the head. Last bit of activity. Take a breath in. And then on the exhale, release. Reach the arms down towards your side. Let the feet just splay out. Go wherever they want to go. And soften and close the eyes. If you've got some extra props, if the low back is a little tender, you can stick a blanket or a bolster underneath the knees, right? Giving yourself a little bit of support. Whatever it takes to find a comfortable space for you to release and rest. It is so easy to get caught up in the hard work that we lose that joy that comes from self-care, that comes from a bit of ease. So take the time to make yourself comfortable, to embrace this Shavasana. If you have the time, see if you can make this a priority in your home practice, giving yourself a little bit of white space, a little bit of clarity. As you drop in, let the muscles release. And take your rest. Spending at least 10, 15 breaths here. As you start to bring a little life back into the fingers and the toes. Not moving quite yet. And just bringing that awareness, that subtle awareness back into the physical body. And see if you can shift back into that plane, that bit of consciousness as you begin to roll out the arms, the wrists, the ankles. Check back in with those joints, with the space in your body. And then eventually rolling your way to one side or the other. And eventually pressing your way up to a seat. And as you find a comfortable seat, you might sit on a block or a bolster. See if you can come back to that feeling of Tadasana. Back to that bit of true north, of center, right, of balance. Worrying less about the engagement and more trying to find a bit of ease here, that sort of fluidity that once you find center, things get lighter. As your body shifts back into a bit of balance. Reach the arms all the way overhead. One last big breath in. Take an inhale. And then open the mouth. Exhale. Drop the hands to heart center. Taking a moment to find a bit of gratitude in your body, your ability to show up, to get on your mat, to find that resiliency, some joy in the hard work, some joy in the balance, the ease, and giving yourself the gift of the practice and of the time for you. And the light and the teacher in me, so it's the light and the teacher in each of you. Namaste.